It was 38 years had gone by since Lucius Tarquinius Priscus had become the king of Rome, and at that time, after that 8 years, everybody, as I've said in the previous video, knew or understood that the next king was going to be Servius Tullius. But something happened, and Lucius was murdered, but his death was kept a secret for a moment. I welcome you to my YouTube channel where I explore ancient texts, and ancient texts here I mean texts that have been around for thousands of years. At the moment I'm going through the book From the Founding of the City by Tatas Livius or Livy. In fact, it's a collection of books that cover the history of Rome, about 700 years of the history of Rome. These books were written about 2,000 years ago. If you've not subscribed, please subscribe so that you don't miss any of the videos that I upload. Plus, it will also help me reach a wider audience. I'll really appreciate. Now, we understand that when Ancus Marcius died, the previous king, he left behind at least 2 sons. And these sons understood that, or expected that one of them was going to be the next king. I don't understand why they believed so, because starting from Romulus, coming to Pompilius, coming to Tullus, none of them had their son succeed them. So I don't know why the sons of Ancus believed that one of them was going to succeed their father. Maybe it's something they got from the neighboring cities and they thought that was going to be the same case for them. So, but then they don't. One of them doesn't. Instead, Lucius Tarquinius Priscus becomes the king. Now, from that point, and remember, Lucius Tarquinius Priscus was their teacher, and he was a friend of their father. Now, they never forgave him for taking away the throne from them, and they always had this feeling that he took away something that belonged to them. Now, and they became even more disturbed when they realized that the person who was likely to be the next king was someone they considered to have been a slave, and that is Servius Tullius. Because Servius Tullius, as I've said in the previous video, he was said that he was a son of a slave. So that really disturbed them. And they were saying that it was just 100 years, or about 100 years, since the reign of Romulus, who they considered to have been a godson, or a god, in fact. And now they were wondering, in just 100 years, Rome was going from being ruled by a god to being ruled by a slave. And that did not go well with them. And they decided they were going to do something about it. And initially they decided to murder Servius Tullius, but they decided, no, if we do that, the king will be, Tarquinius is going to really punish whoever who does that, and is still going to decide who becomes the king, so that wouldn't really help. So they decided to deal with Tarquinius himself first, and then they act on Servius Tullius almost immediately, because then there will not be king in the throne to take any step. And they pick 2 shepherds who they send to the palace. These 2 shepherds go to the palace and they pretend to be arguing at the door of the palace. They pretend they are arguing, and then they are invited into the palace to bring their case before the king. And the king is trying to listen to them. And while he's listening to one of them gets out an axe and hits him on the head, and he falls down. And these shepherds try to escape, but they are arrested. And they are arrested. Then Tanaquil acts very fast. Tanaquil gives orders that the palace should be closed and her husband to be taken to another room to be taken care of, and she tries to find ways, of course, to help him recover, but then there was nothing they could do. The wound was too much. He could not survive, and he died, in fact, almost immediately. But Tanaquil decided it wasn't the right moment to announce that the king was dead. So what she does, she summons Servius, and this is what she tells Servius. She tells Servius, to you, Servius, if you are a man, belongs this kingdom, not to those who by the hands of others have committed dastardly crime. Arouse yourself and follow the guidance of the gods, who once declared by the token of divine fire poured out upon this head that you should be a famous man. Now is the time for that heaven sent flame to quicken you. Now wake in earnest. We too were foreigners, yet we reigned. Consider what you are, not whence you were born. If your own counsels are benumbed in this sudden crisis, at least use mine. So she tells him, you know, even us, we are foreigners, and you are a foreigner as well, but we reigned, and you can reign. And she tells him, of course, he should do something. And Tarquinius goes to, of course, there are people outside wondering what's going on. And she goes out and she talks to the people and she tells them, you don't worry, the king is okay, it's just a scare, he's doing fine, we've looked at these wounds and there's nothing really to worry about. So she goes back to the palace. She has assured the citizens that there's nothing to worry about, but the king is already dead. In fact, she takes Savius and shows him the dead king. And they buy time. This telling people that the king is okay was buying time so that Savius gets to organize himself. For days, Savius pretends that he's, because Tarquinius had told the people that Savius is going to take up some of the responsibilities of the king while the king is recovering. So Savius sits on the throne and is solving issues that come in every day. Some of them he pretends that he's going to console the king in another room, then he comes back. So people were sure that Lucius Tarquinius Priscus was still alive, but he was dead. Meanwhile, Savius is organizing his security, is putting in place, taking steps to make sure that when it's announced that the king is dead, there is no danger to himself, especially to the two sons of Ancus. So that goes on for a while, and when he's so sure that he has secured everything, then it's announced that Lucius Tarquinius Priscus is dead. And Savius became technically the king, but it wasn't approved through a vote, at least initially. And when the two sons of Ancus learned that Tarquinius is not dead, because that was the information that was being supplied, and that Savius was sitting in the throne and he was running things, they escaped and went into exile.